Hey, my friends, welcome to the Let's Get Gritty podcast. I am so excited to be here with you guys today. Thanks so much for joining the podcast. We have a wonderful session today, so I'm really looking forward to it, and I know you are as well. With that said, I'm going to get started with my announcements like I always do. So, first off, the Let's Get Gritty podcast. It's going to be featured on Swing Girl Media Channel, which you can find it on, I believe, Apple Tunes and things like that, and on Fire Stick. So go ahead and check that out when you get a chance. Further, if you want to be a guest on the Let's Get Gritty podcast, please send me a photo and a bio of you to india.white.123@gmail.com, and we'll get you scheduled. Okay. Also, I love a good following. I love to connect with so many of you guys and all the different, backgrounds and areas of our lives and the ways that we're all trying to impact society. So join me on Facebook at Miss India White. You can join me on LinkedIn at The India White. My Twitter channel is Indie Speak and Teach. If you're looking for big ideas, learning math stuff, that's I White BIL. My Instagram is Indie238. And my YouTube channel is India White 123. So with that said, let's connect. Let's look at each other's stuff, like, post, reshare, and collaborate together on some wonderful projects. I'm looking forward to connecting with you guys. Also, if you're wanting to check out more information, I do have some books that I've written. I have some brand new courses I'm putting on my website for you guys. And I also have blogs available and different events where you can just kind of see just the different ways I've been able to join amazing partners all over the nation to impact students and teachers and leaders alike. So you can check out my website there. It's www.india-white.com. Okay. And I'm looking forward to connecting with all of you in the future on some wonderful things that we're going to be doing together. So with that said, I have the wonderful honor of bringing on a special guest onto the Let's Get Gritty podcast. This is someone who has definitely been a forerunner. She has been someone that has definitely contributed to society and to the inclusion of all people, in particular African Americans. And so with that said, I want to bring on this phenomenal entrepreneur of the wonderful organization that deals with Rosewood, which I'm not sure if you guys know about that, but we're going to dig all into that today. So let's bring on to the show today, Mrs. Lizzie Jenkins. How are you?
I am fine and welcome and welcome for welcoming me. Thank you for inviting me. I am excited. I
It
am
is.
as excited as you are. And like you say, together, we need to work together so that we can get this information out, especially history, Black history, because Black history is America's history.
Yes.
Okay, without our history, there is no American history. So I'm excited about being your guest today. I am more than excited to share my Rosewood information because people need to know about Rosewood. We need to know our history. And by the way, I will introduce myself. I am
Yes.
Lizzie Robinson Jenkins, president, founder of the Real Rosewood Foundation. I have been doing this research for 30 plus years.
Wow.
And when I tell you it is real Rosewood history, it is.
Yes.
And I did it at the request, not the request. Old people didn't request, they didn't ask. My mother demanded
Wow.
that I research and keep this history preserved and
Wow.
alive because her sister was the Rosewood school teacher
Oh,
from
wow.
1915 to 1923.
Oh,
And she was a
wow.
survivor. She suffered the agony of defeat. And my mother said to me, "You must tell sister's story." So I'm here today sharing this with you.
Oh, my word. Okay. So before we get started, guys, this is Mrs. Lizzie Jenkins, who is the founder and the president of the Real Rosewood organization. Now, Mrs. Lizzie, can you do us a favor and tell us about Rosewood? Now, before you start, I want to tell you something really interesting. I was a student at the University of Florida. I remembered on the application, they would ask, were your family members victims of Rosewood tragedy, right? Yes or no? I put no, right?
Uh-huh.
but yes, they were.
Really?
Didn't know it. So we definitely have to catch up because they were going to give us a full ride scholarship if you were a Rosewood, if you suffered, if your family suffered in that. And I didn't know. I just didn't know. I was in a homeless shelter. I didn't know who to go to in my family to find out. And then later on, while I'm in school, my relatives were talking about Rosewood and how we actually suffered from that, and our relatives were a part of that, and I had no idea. So I just want to throw that out there and say to you, thank you. We definitely have to catch up after this show because you've got to school me on some stuff. But I just wanted to throw that in. But for those that don't know Mrs. Lizzie, can you talk to us about what was the Rosewood situation, the massacre, the unfortunate situation?
First of all, I want to acknowledge you. Hello, cousin.
Hey. Oh.
Yes, we have a lot to catch up. And I know absolutely too much about Rosewood. And when I say I know too much, the story goes on and on and on. And each time I tell it, I always tell it differently because it's a lot of information. But
Yes.
for starters, my mother, and I will reference my mom often because my
Okay.
mother was an eighth grade scholar. She could
Wow.
only go to school till to eighth grade, and that was like 4 months a year. But she was a self homemade historian
Beautiful.
because her ancestors told her stories, and mom told us bedtime stories. But you know what? All of our stories that were told by my mother back then were real life stories, stories about our family connection. It wasn't Cinderella, fake, fictitious. It was real.
Yeah.
And for some reason in 1943, well, as I said, my aunt, her sister, the school teacher, suffered the agony of defeat. She was a school teacher. She had a happy life there until January 1, 1923, when the KKK invaded Sumner. Sumner was a town, little settlement, sawmill town, I'll put it like that, next to 3 miles from Rosewood. So she taught only in taught school in Rosewood. However, there were black men from Sumner that I'm sorry, from Rosewood that lived in Sumner and worked in Sumner at that same sawmill where Fannie Taylor's husband was the foreman. And Fannie Taylor was the lady that cried, a black man assaulted me. But my mom said, you must never attack anyone about what happened in Rosewood because the people living today did not create Rosewood. They are not responsible,
Right.
and you're not either, baby. So her words of encouragement: research, document, tell the truth. And it's so easy to tell the truth when you know the truth. There
Yes.
are people out there that don't know the truth, and they are making money off the people who have done the research because they call out a few names, like my aunt name.
Mm.
The only person living who really knows the school teacher is me. They
Wow.
don't even know if that's the correct name, but they take that name and her picture and they run with it. But hey, I'm going to track them down. You are going to pay me.
Right.
I'm kidding and I'm not kidding, but they use her and her name and her picture all over America. But anyway, that's okay too. They are still helping get the information out because they are saying, "Oh, she was a teacher and this happened in Rosewood." But Fannie Taylor, as I said, triggered the Rosewood massacre because she lied that my uncle was the husband to the school teacher, assaulted her. It was a big to do. It was a big mess. And I really don't like to spend my time talking just about her because after the movie, my mother was 20, and I'm jumping all over the place, but you'll be able to put it together. My mother was 20 years old when Rosewood happened in 1923. She remembered everything. She remembered her sister coming home, falling across the bed on January 4, 1923, sobbing and sobbing and sobbing because she was so depressed. She was so hurt. She refused to tell her parents the story. Both parents were living, but she chose my mom, age 20, single, still at home, because she was gang raped and she was too embarrassed. She didn't want her parents to know that the mob, the KKK had raped her, because she would not lie to them about her husband's whereabouts the night of Fannie Taylor proposed lie. Okay. And she would tell them each time they asked after they captured her from Aunt Sarah's house, they wanted to know. And when I said they, I mean the KKK. And the 1923 newspaper said it was approximately two to 300 KKK Klansmen that came to Sumner to help James Taylor, Fannie Taylor's husband, find the end who supposedly assaulted his wife. And as I said, she was getting raped, but she told my mom everything. And my mom knew that that story needed to be kept alive. So in 1943, when I was 5, and by the way, I'm 84, so you don't have to try to figure out how old I am.
Beautiful. You're beautiful.
when I was 5, uh, she sat us down. And when I say us, her 4 children, because she had worn my dad ears off, I assume, telling him the story. She needed someone to talk to, the same as her sister, my aunt, needed someone to talk to. So this particular night, she chose us. It was cold. We were sitting in front of a fireplace or a heater. I think we had both. You know, back then, 42, we didn't have the best heated house.
Mm.
It was cold in there. And she wanted to share that story. And no one wanted to hear it. Not even me. I didn't know what it was about. But anyway, she got started saying to us, y'all, to her 4 children, I'm 5, my brother 7 and 9, and my sister 11. Sit down on the settee. Mama's going to tell you a story about Sister in the Rosewood Massacre. When she said Rosewood, here I am, 5 years old. What came to my mind was roses in the woods. And when she said Rosewood Massacre, I had absolutely no idea what
Yeah.
she was talking about. Now
Wow.
you let me know if you want to stop at any time and ask a question.
No, this is powerful. Keep going because that's exactly what I was thinking was for you to receive such heavy content at age 5. I mean, and in your innocent mind, you're thinking roses, you're thinking woods, and
Yes.
then she's starting to tell you. So I would love to have you continue to tell the story and then
Mhm,
just how you were able to take on all this as a
mhm.
student and as a leader today.
Powerful, it's heavy. And I'll tell you later on, I did not want to do it. But anyway, at 5, we sat attentively and listened to her twiddle her fingers and talk about Rosewood. And I knew it was a serious education. I knew it was dangerous because I could tell by the expression on her face that she was not happy sharing this information. I knew it because she was sad. I just like you
Yeah,
feel my power. I felt her
yeah,
sadness. I knew something bad had happened to her sister, my favorite, my favorite aunt, in fact, the only aunt I knew. But she was my homeschool teacher. She would teach me at home, especially in 1940. This was long after the Rosewood Massacre, because she wanted to be a teacher, so she taught me. Thank God she did. And I remembered everything. So mom continued to talk. My brothers both went to sleep. I was a little upset, but I
yeah.
was so interested in what she was saying. I tried to stay awake. And as long as I could keep my little eyes open, I listened. But you know what? For some, my sister, 11 years old, was in another world. Her eyes were not even focused on my mom. She was just looking around. She didn't want to hear it, period. But for some reason, that story attached itself to me. So I just assumed God put me here, ordained me, so that I could tell this story. It had to be
Thank
told.
you.
And because of me, you are listening, you are hearing, and your audience will hear this story too. But the next, as I said, I think I said if I didn't, I went to sleep also. I was tired. But the next morning, and the reason I remembered something she said the next morning, I wanted to know more. I wanted to hear the rest of the stories. My mom gave me that eye. You know, people, our parents talked with their eyes back then. Okay. Said not now. That's what her eyes said, not now. So my dad was a farmer, and he would get up every morning early, and we did too, 4 o'clock a.m. Because before we went to school, we had to feed the chicken, cut wood, water the hogs, gather eggs. We had to do all that, milk the cows. That's what we did. Those were our chores before we went to school. So that morning, while my mom was making breakfast at 4 a.m., and dad would always get up and make sure he put a fire in the stove. We had a wood stove so that my mom could cook hot biscuits. And when I say hot biscuits, fresh eggs, we had our own milk, grits, and a wonderful family life. We were poor. We didn't know it. We were poor. We couldn't afford poor.
Yeah.
But we were close knit and loving, and we got along. So mom took us to school that particular morning. When it was cold, she would drive us to school. Dad, we had one mode of transportation, a truck. My dad walked to work 7 miles, but he always left that truck home so that my mom could take care of us and the other families in the community. There were 18 families in this particular community settlement or village. We were the only family with transportation.
Wow.
So my mom took care of the community. She would take people to the store to buy groceries or to do what they needed to do. She was like a taxi, and she charged them 25 cents. That was a lot of money back then because it bought groceries for us, for my family, for a whole week. 25 cents.
Wow.
You could get sugar and meal, the staples uh, that we needed. And for a little of nothing. So that particular day, she dropped us off to school. I still wanted to know. No, time was not right. But that day in school, I remember not hearing one thing the teacher said because I was worried about my aunt. And we called her MG. Her name was or is Mahalda Gussie Brown Carrier when she married a carrier. So we could not articulate Mahalda. So she said, call me MG. So we call her Aunt MG or Mahalda Gussie. So I was so worried in school on the day after because I was thinking what my mom told us happened, what she told us on the night of, that it happened last night, like the night before. It
Right.
had it had happened 23 years ago. And I could not separate that. I could not
Yeah.
divide that. Okay, so you understand where
Yes,
I'm
ma'am.
saying. Okay, and I do make this humorous in order to survive the story.
Yes.
It is so painful as I speak. It's still painful today to
Yeah.
me, but we must know. I must share. And I'm so glad you said you are connected everywhere and we can share this story. And I
Yes,
hope people that hear you and your presentation, my presentation through you, will get in touch with me
yes,
so
ma'am.
we can talk some more. And I have a podcast too, and
Oh,
I'm
you
going to invite you on my podcast.
too.
After I teach you the history of
Yes,
your
ma'am.
family in Rosewood.
That's a high honor. Thank you.
Yes, and it is an honor for me to talk to you. But one day, Mom and I were together, and I said, Mom, tell me about that Rosewood story. I remember she did. She did. And I need some like Okay. She told me the story. It was not a pleasant story. But what was most important, it was powerful, like you said, it was heavy.
Yeah.
In other words,
I can imagine. Did she go into detail about some of the murders and tragedies?
everything. And
Wow.
I'm not going to share that today. All of this will be in my upcoming book this year before the centennial
Congratulations.
is over. Thank you. And I can say this. I am doing a book signing on June 24th. If you're not doing anything, I would love for you to drive up to Gainesville.
Yes, ma'am. I
Okay.
will mark that in my calendar for sure. Yes, ma'am. Congratulations. I will definitely support
But
that.
but you know what? The book is really not about Roseville, but it is about my growing up and the
Yes,
struggles. That's what it's about. It has black pictures, pictures of black girls in it. Uh, when I was growing up, probably when you were growing up too, we never saw a book. I never read a book with black children, black
come on
characters,
now. Right. There was no representation. Exactly.
none whatsoever.
Yeah.
This book is filled with them,
Beautiful.
black girls. And let me tell you a story about the girls. They were adopted by a Romanian young man.
Hmm.
And he gave me permission to use his three daughters. Oh, that just touched my heart positively. It's
Wow.
his girls in this book. All three of them play are very talented. They play instruments. I can't remember violin and others that I don't want to name wrongly. So they are very gifted, and they're in my
Wow.
book, and I am just
Beautiful.
so happy to have them in my book. And when my mom told me about the story and told me what she was going to do, I was really, when I was much older, because after we talked and we kept continued to talk, it became our story. It was our story as God planted it in her heart, as if God planted it in her heart. She passed the torch to me. Was I happy? No,
Mm.
I didn't want to do it. I, I was angry. In fact, I was angry because I could feel the work. I could feel the responsibility. I was not ready for it. I was not trained to do it. And I knew it was going to be a lot of work. But in 1982, probably after, no, you were in college, if they offered you or were going to offer you the scholarship, it was after 1994, right?
Yes,
And
ma'am. Right.
you were,
I
okay.
went to college 2003. So,
Okay, okay.
yes.
I'm so sorry I didn't know you then. I would have helped you.
Oh,
Yes,
it's okay. We've got a lot of work to do in the future. So,
yes,
it's
yes,
okay.
yes. Hey, we'll have a scholarship. In fact,
Yes,
I do
ma'am.
have a scholarship already.
I
But
love that.
but the story has, oh, as I was saying, I did not want to, but my mom said to me, she said to me one day, she said, well, if mama was younger, mama would do it. That's a guilt trip, right?
Yeah.
She put a guilt trip on her. Mom would do it if I was younger. And I was so upset. I wanted to say to her, well, do it then. But we didn't talk back
Right.
back then. I wanted to say,
Right.
well, then you do it. But because the burden of history is really just that, a burden, and it was a burden. So, and we didn't talk about it. Rosewood was not discussed because the white people that caused it did not want the black folks to know about it. So we were all afraid to talk about it. Even me, when I went to school, I took that story with me. I took it to college with me. I took it to work with me when I started teaching, but I never talked about it until about 1982, when two of the youngest survivors went to Ed Bradley, 60 Minutes, and told him their story,
Wow.
their suffrage. And they were like 7 and 9 when it happened. And after 1982, it just opened up the gates to history. And all of the families started talking about Rosewood. And it's several different families. like you are in Tampa. There are other people in Tampa and all over Florida, all over, everywhere. Washington D.C. There's a foundation there, and I understand it's about 5 different foundations. All of our stories are different, but at the end, when it all comes together, it's the same. You killed our people, you burned our town down, and you took our property. And now you will not allow us at the cemetery, okay, to visit our own Rosewood family members. It's sad, it's prejudice, and I don't like it.
How, Mrs. Jenkins, have you been able, through grit, great resilience and time, to continue to move forward and to contribute to the positive cause in society of bringing us together, working through these hardships? How have you been able to use grit to do that?
Courage, faith in God, prayer, okay,
Yes,
very prayerful because I was chased out of Rosewood at one time. They didn't actually chase me, but their presence chased me. When they came to the courthouse when I was doing my research, and about 8 to 10 white men, and I just want to make sure you all know, my audience know, or your audience know, they were all white men. Came down. I was downstairs near sitting around the table with all of my work tools on the table, and they encircled my table a couple of times. My heart dropped in my lap. I just couldn't see it because I reflected on what they had done to my aunt the night they raped her. I didn't know if they were going to take me upstairs and out the
mm,
back door or not, because as I said, I was in the basement. And praying, it's prayer. I still pray today, but I am I still afraid? Yes. Are all white people angry with you? Of course not. They are behind me, and I can say 100%. Some of them are, because what they enjoy about my story, I tell the truth, and they can feel it. And I tell them, if you can feel the energy and feel my story, then you understand.
yes,
And
ma'am.
those are the people that's helping me.
Wow. And the thing is, I love how, you are, older, but you are so intelligent and you are leading this work. And it is important for younger ears like myself and my children to understand history.
Mhm.
But then to also connect and to say, look how far we have come as a nation. Yes, we might still have some glitches, but it's 2023. Times are very different. I was able to go to the University of Florida and get a doctorate. I was highly embraced by the faculty there, the entire community. They loved me. They spoiled me, I think. I was a Gators 40 under 40, one of the top 40 graduates at the university that they honored.
Mhm.
I was able to have a committee, all European descent committee, who all approved of my dissertation and supported me those entire 4 years as I worked on my doctorate. I had beautiful, beautiful principals of
Mhm.
European descent. My pastor, who I love, was like a dad to me. He's like a bishop, European descent. My mentor, European descent. I work for a beautiful company with phenomenal families, European descent. And I say this because, as an African American and someone that my family did definitely suffer Rosewood massacre, I would not be able to say those things had our
Exactly.
country not evolved. And I just want to say that I thank you for your story and I thank you for your heart. But most importantly, I thank you for your forgiveness. And I
Yeah.
thank you for how you're able to say, this is what happened. But look at how we are now coming together and how we're all working towards one common cause of creating a community, an environment for all students, to thrive in that environment and to belong and to feel like they have purpose in society. And so grit took that. It took grit to make that. And so I just want you to talk a little bit now about how have you been able to share your story to cultivate an environment where grit thrives, where we can all come together for a common cause through sharing your story.
Well, as I said, I do have a podcast. I have Facebook, the Real Rosewood Foundation Inc. One Facebook, Lizzie Robinson Jenkins, another Facebook. And I have my podcast, which is really leaps and taking it leaps and bounds. I have a college, a university, Florida International University, just did an elegy to Rosewood, which is wherein they came here, the chief curators, and collected my Rosewood artifacts, took them to FIU and
Wow.
displayed an exhibit in the Frost Museum
Wow.
there for 4 months. In fact, it was supposed to leave this month going to uh, Winter Park, the Hannibal Museum in
Okay.
Winter Park. However, by popular demand, was there is something special happening on the 30th of April at that university, and they asked if they could keep it longer. So that elegy to Rosewood, and look it up when you get off
Yes,
the
ma'am.
phone, elegy to Rosewood. It has gone, I thought, national. So I was talking with a
Yes,
friend in New York, and she said, "Oh no, not national." She said, "My friend from Japan called me and
oh,
wanted to know more about the history of Rosewood." So it is
beautiful.
moving. It is moving.
Yes.
People like you, people like you. I'm going to hook up with every
Yes, ma'am.
podcast person of your status everywhere, and I do have other people that's helping share.
Yes,
I
ma'am.
went Tuesday morning, and my attorney, well, he's not
Yes,
my
ma'am.
attorney, he's just a good friend that loves Rosewood. He did a live ad for me, which will be out in 2 or 3 days. I will send
Awesome.
it to you and you can
Yes,
spread
ma'am.
it. So
Yes, I
that
will.
is how I am spreading the information. I have done at least between 25 and 30 videos, YouTube,
Wow.
that
We
I
need to
am.
get you in the newspapers as well.
Oh, the
So, and
newspaper.
I do have news reporter friends. I'm gonna,
Yes,
see if I can run this by them as well. We need to get you on every outlet that we can because it's a high honor to have you still doing this amazing work and for having such a good spirit about it as well.
yes. I'm not angry anymore with
Yeah.
my mom. I know she's up there smiling down on me, said, "Go, baby, go." She trained me well, but it was not easy, and it's still not easy. But I just want to say to people, if you talk about Rosewood, please tell the truth. Those people lost
Wow.
their lives, okay? And I make it as sacred as I can for them, and I want them to be remembered.
Yes.
Yes.
So
And I,
about how many people, Mrs. Jenkins, do you think they've tallied that unfortunately lost their lives to Rosewood?
my calculation tells me it was 5 blacks and 2 whites. However, the blacks, and I don't use African American. I like the term black because
Yes,
it's Black history. The black community said it was more than 2 whites because they invaded. They came into Rosewood. The KKK people, the 3 to 500, invaded Rosewood one night, not knowing where they were going. And I understand they were met head on with gunfire from the Rosewood community. We can't we can't validate this. However, we can believe that's why they wanted it covered up and silenced for all of those years. They didn't want the message to get out. But I do know for sure there were 174 people that received a reparation check. Okay. 174 people, 174 Rosewood descendants and survivors. I
ma'am.
also know by checking the teachers' uh, school records, there were 47 parents and 47 parents. No, there were 47 students and 20 parents. Okay, it may have been more. I don't know. But just looking at the records, the school records between 1919 and 1923, I was able to calculate that amount. They did not want me to get those school records. I had to visit the school board at least 5 times.
Wow.
They pretended they didn't have them. I said, "Oh, yes, you do." I
Mm.
was determined. And they would make me go home. I went home, but I came back.
So
Okay.
you use that grit to get those records.
I needed grits, get those records. And I got them. The same thing with the historical marker. I called Governor Bush's, he was Jeb Bush was the governor at the time. I called his office 3 times. First time, a bunch of, not truth. Uh, well, what's the importance of it? I don't need you to ask me the importance of it. I need a historical marker because people need to know that roads would happen. Well, it's going to cost you somebody, staff member, $2,400. That was supposed to be, a turnoff. I said, okay. And I was determined, didn't hear from, well, we'll get back in touch with you. Didn't hear from them.
Wow.
Second time I called, well, it's going to cost you $12,000. Okay. But the third time I called, I was ready. They knew I was ready. I wasn't taking any more BS
Grit.
with them. Grit.
Grit.
I like that word. I'm going to have to start using grit. Okay.
Yes. Use it. Yes,
I
ma'am.
love it. I love it. And then I was grit. I mean, bacon and rice and eggs too.
Get some grits with your grit, right?
Grits and gravy.
Yeah.
The gravy came from my mouth. But anyway, on the third call, they said to me, well, we have decided to just donate it, give it to you.
Oh
Okay.
wow.
When can you get us the script? I said, what's your email address? I had already written the script
Yeah.
for the marker. Don't play with me.
Wow.
So from there, it went on to happen.
Wow.
And they,
Beautiful.
they shipped it to me in January of 2004. And on the day, 10 years to the date, from the time that Governor Lawton Charles, let me make that so people will know.
Yes, ma'am.
10 days from the date that Florida Governor Lawton Charles signed the Rosewood Bill for reparation on January 4, 1994, and on May 4, 2004, Jeb Bush, Florida Governor Jeb Bush, came to Rosewood at my request and dedicated that Rosewood marker. I
Wow.
was no longer angry or upset. Okay. And
Beautiful.
they, they wanted to make sure people know that it was sponsored by the Real Rosewood Foundation and co sponsored by the Department of State of Florida.
Wow.
It's on the bottom of that marker. So
Wow.
I'm just honored. I just feel so good, so joyful.
Yeah.
Okay. To know
Built
that my
purpose.
work speaks.
Beautiful. And it's not done. I see this, I see a book, possibly a movie. There's so many
I have a
things.
movie. I have movies. I have
Wow.
a young man at FIU. And the reason I reference FIU because they were the people that stepped up to the plate when they heard about Rosewood. Okay. They were
Yes.
ready to work. So
Learning
it's
that
building them and it's giving them,
beautiful.
yeah, it's giving them recognition too.
Yes, it is. Yes,
So a young man, a young black man that worked in New York or someplace, Law and Order, uh, actor, he is working on a movie which will be out this year.
it is.
Based on my information, so I feel so proud.
Oh my gosh.
Yes,
Beautiful. Look at that. Look at this full circle. And it's
I,
beautiful how your mom and your ancestors, how she would have never known that her little side story, bedside story to you would evolve into this. And that is why you had to carry the torch, because now you were able to take that passion that was in her heart, just that one little story. And
yes,
now it's hitting millions. It's
Yes.
touching millions all over the world, so
Yes.
that people know, yes, the tragedies, yes, the injustice, but that they also see how far we've come. Thank God I have never had a run in with the KKK. I'm sure they're still doing their thing.
Right.
But instead of focusing on that noise,
Yes.
I like to focus on inclusion and on how we have all strived to come together, and how I
Mhm.
know that I have people of European descent who would go to bat for me. Whereas
Exactly.
50, 60, 80 years ago, I don't know if I could have said the same.
Right.
We've moved forward, and you have been able to see how we've moved forward. We've had diversity and
Mhm.
in leadership through politics. We've had
Yes.
diversity in professors and people contributing great things in society. I'm honored to be a textbook author of math books.
Wonderful.
Which
Congratulations. We
yes,
got to get
you
together.
know, and it's beautiful, and it's beautiful to work with teens of diverse, people of diverse backgrounds. But it would not have happened if everyone, including European descent, beautiful people, were
Hmm.
willing to have a change of heart and to say,
Yes.
let's let go of some of those things that we might have been taught, or
Mhm.
let's let go of some of that hate. I think this is so beautiful. I mean, and I'm getting a little emotional because I think of my professors, my teachers who,
Mhm.
were of European descent and Hispanic descent, Russian, Asian. I've had such a wealthy life of diverse people in my life that have had a print on my heart, a print on my work, and I'm able now to be a voice, and you're able to be a voice because
Yes.
people of various backgrounds have said, let's give her opportunity, let's open the door, let's give a shot at it, let's take a risk, let's put off our own preconceived ideas, let's put
Yes.
aside our
Yeah.
stereotypical biases and our prejudices, let's put it to the side, and let's all come together like Dr. King has preached. I mean, this is touching my heart to
Yes.
see
Yes.
that your work of just telling the story has gone so far. And I'm just, I don't know why I'm so emotional. I think it's because I'm in the deep of my heart. This is what I want. I want us to come together, as a nation, as a people, as a globe, to see it's a human race, and that, we could put aside our differences. We can
Yes.
forgive. We can forgive. We can
Yes.
give second chances. We don't have to repeat some of the hatred that has been taught us,
Right.
and even as we're looking, even, as African American Blacks, we don't have to look at all the hate that has been given, and we don't have to dish that back out, but we can say, yes, that happened, but the hate stops here. I'm going to
Exactly.
make a difference, and you're doing that through these works. And I just want to say thank you.
You're welcome. That's my goal, to close the racial divide.
Yes, ma'am. And so, I wanted to see too, grit is having that passion and perseverance to obtain a long-term goal. How have you been able to obtain your long-term goal of this rosewood work through grit?
Like you just said, the European faculty, staff members, and because let's say faculty, they don't, it doesn't mean that I'm talking about teachers. I'm talking about workers. They
Yes,
have come together with me. They have been my support, and they are there for me. I do my podcast at Steve Spurrier. Don't know if you've heard of Steve Spurrier, but
yes,
Steve
yes.
Spurrier. I am
Go Coach,
in.
go Gators. Yes. I was in the marching band. I know all
I'm
about
in
it.
his podcast room, and that's an honor. Okay,
Yes.
this is my podcast and his podcast room,
Ah,
and all of the people that know him
yeah.
basically know me.
Yes.
they,
Oh my
if they don't
God.
know me, they know my vision. They know my platform,
Beautiful.
and they are behind the scene that I know they are. The behind the scene that's saying, "Go Lizzie."
Yes.
Okay, and
Oh,
that
that
is
is so
what I
awesome.
am doing. It's a blessing, and oh my God, I sleep at night, and I wake up. I go to bed tired. I wake up tired. I continue to work just like you.
Yes,
We
ma'am.
got a job to do.
Yes.
We got a job to do, and also I didn't tell you again. FIU is working on. They have done it. They're editing a, what is it called, hologram, my
Wow.
very own hologram for Lizzie Robinson Jenkins. I can't wait.
Oh,
I
that
can't
is awesome.
wait. So they're
Congratulations.
getting me out there. They are getting me out there. It's not
Oh,
about
the
me.
best is yet to come. This isn't the end. I
Yes,
expect this to go. I mean, I can see Washington, D.C. getting this. I can see just nationwide, California getting this. So,
mhm.
we're going to definitely push your name and push this work out. I have my mentor, one of my mentors, Vicky. She also is a historian doing some great things in Sarasota, Florida. And I want to link you with her because she has a whole historic museum of African American history, and she's going to have like a whole community center for students to learn about history, in particular, just diverse history, African American, Black history. And so I think that this is perfect for
Okay.
what she does. So I will be linking you guys up as well. So this has been such a high honor, Mrs. Lizzie Jenkins. And for you guys that, you don't know a lot about Rosewood, Mrs. Lizzie Jenkins is here to talk about it. And Miss Lizzie, what is a good email or contact information that we can follow up with you?
Okay.
Okay.
Lizzie LIZZIE PRJ @AOL.com.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, and you may give out my phone number. I'm not
Yes,
going
ma'am.
to. Yeah,
Okay. What's that?
that's perfect.
Yes, ma'am.
No,
Okay.
no, no, no. Okay, where you have contact Lizzie, but that's okay. It should be an IE. That's okay. But my email address is correct. So that's
Yes, ma'am.
more
I'm going to
important.
change it. Yes, ma'am. I apologize for that.
You have somebody working in the background.
No, that's me.
That's you? Oh, okay. That's perfect. That's it. Yes. Yes, indeed. And the name of my podcast is Queen Lizzie Podcast.
Okay. Awesome.
And a European named it for me. I didn't. He told me I was a queen, which I blushed, of
Yes,
course.
you are.
The name Queen Lizzie Podcast. He said, "You are a queen."
Wow. Well, congratulations for this work. And I know you said you also had a book signing coming up in June. And so I want to make sure that you guys are going to be able to support Mrs. Lizzie at her book signing. Please make sure Steve Spurrier can somehow get behind that if possible. We would love to either see him or have his support at your book signing as well, because I think that he is a wonderful man that has contributed so much to Gainesville, Florida, as a
Yes, yes,
previous coach who Gainesville fell in love with. And so
yes, yes.
I know he's got his restaurant, he's got so many great things going on, and now he's helping you with this podcast. And I think that it would also be appropriate if he also can maybe put his stamp on this book signing. I hope you'll be able to get that worked out in the future. But Mrs. Lizzie, it has been an honor to connect with you about Rosewood, and thank you for having the heart and the umph to continue to move forward with this work. And I'm so happy to see that your labor is not in vain and that it's now starting to really pay off in ways that have been exceeding abundantly above all that you can ask or think. And so with that said, God bless you, Mrs. Lizzie.
God
Thank
bless
you
you.
for the honor of having you on my podcast. And I'm going to let you end it with maybe one more word of advice for people that are trying to see how can they move forward, beyond any injustices or beyond any setbacks that they might have. What advice do you have for them?
I would say to them, when God is in the plan is in his hands. Trust in
Wow.
God. I believe so much in God. That is what gets me through. And I have a praying husband who is the co-founder, okay, of the Real Rosewood Foundation, as directed by my mother. My mother was a powerful woman, very powerful. She believed in God. She was everything to me.
Wow.
So just pray. Prayer, I believe in prayer. Okay.
Amen.
And
Yes.
what I want to see at the end of this, I'm seeking peace, healing, and reconciliation.
Beautiful.
I didn't say justice, but justice too. Thank you very much
Yeah.
for inviting me. It has been so joyful, enjoyable. Okay. And thank you. And we will stay in touch, cousin.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Thank you, cousin.
Okay. You're
High
welcome.
honor. Thank you. So, with that
Okay.
said, guys, listen, thanks so much for joining the Let's Get Gritty podcast with our phenomenal guest here, Mrs. Lizzie Jenkins, and she does have her own podcast as well, so which is Queen Lizzie. So long story short, we are going to put this out here for you guys. Continue to keep in touch with us, and until next time, stay gritty.